Hello and welcome to our Judson University webinar, The Beginner's Guide to Financial Aid. Thanks to everybody who's joined us so far. Obviously, as you can see on screen, we're here to talk about financial aid. We're going to talk about high-level financial aid topics, things about grants and loans, how to apply for funding, how to qualify for scholarships, and ultimately our goal is to help you pay for your Judson education the smart way. So just a quick review, go a little bit more in depth in terms of what we're going to cover. Like I said, we're going to talk about the difference between grants and loans and how you can utilize those to pay for education. We'll delve into scholarships and military benefits and how folks qualify for those, as well as what you need to do to determine how much aid you will qualify for. And so we've got a great panel of folks who have joined us today from Judson University to help talk about this topic. So I'm going to give them the chance to introduce themselves. Kim, let's go ahead and start with you.
Hi, I'm Kim Surin. I'm the enrollment manager here at Judson University. I manage a team of enrollment coaches and success coaches who are available to help you through this financial aid process.
All right, thanks, Kim. Tanya.
Hi, my name is Tanya White, and I'm an executive enrollment coach for Judson. When the world is acting a little bit more normally, my office is at our Rockford campus, which is located at the YMCA off of North 2nd and White Boulevard there in Rockford. But for now, I have the opportunity to work from home, so still hanging out with students and helping them answer questions and get through the financial aid process. So excited to still have that opportunity to help clarify for everybody.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Tanya. We've also got a couple folks from the financial aid department at Judson University joining us. Jessica, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yes, my name is Jessica Pliego, and I am the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Judson. So I mainly work with the adult population. And yeah, I've been at Judson for a year so far.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Jessica. And Vinny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vinny Peluso. I started at Judson in late 2018. And yeah, I've been at the Elgin campus ever since, working under Jessica. And yeah, this is the first time that I've been in a financial aid role. So relatively new, but having a ton of fun doing it.
All right, thanks, Vinny. So Kim and Tanya are gonna walk us through most of the content that we have today, and then Jessica and Vinny are going to help out, especially in our Q&A portion. So if you have questions as we go through the webinar today, there should be a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. You don't have to wait for the Q&A portion at the end to submit your question. Just anytime you think of something, click that Q&A icon, type your question there, we'll be able to see it, and then we can address it at the end. The other thing that I'll add is that obviously we know that everybody's financial situations and financial aid opportunities are going to vary from person to person. And so we'd ask that if you have questions, try to keep them to a high kind of general kind of level. That doesn't mean we don't want to answer your specific question or get into your specific situation, but that's a conversation that is best had with your enrollment coach. And so we'll be sharing details a couple of times here in the presentation about how you can contact a coach directly to get detailed information about your specific situation. So again, utilize that Q&A icon anytime throughout the presentation to type in your question, and we'll address those at the end. So with that, Kim, I'm going to turn the time to you to get us started and just helping answer that first question. What is?
Okay, thank you. So financial aid is funding that can come from many sources to help you pay for college or a career school. Common sources where it comes from are, of course, federal government, state government, schools, and private sources. So how can Judson help? 99% of our Judson students actually do qualify for financial aid. So as we had said earlier, we obviously have a team of people here to help with answering questions, help through that process, and answer additional questions as we're done with this webinar today. Types of financial aid. So there are many types of aid, but the most common include grants, student loans, scholarships, VA, and military benefits. So I'm going to turn it over to Tanya to talk about grants.
Absolutely. One of the federal and state level financial aid options that are available are grants. One of the wonderful things about grants is that it is money that does not have to be paid back as long as you're successfully completing your classes. and there are dozens of grants available. The most common ones that students apply for are the federal Pell Grant, which happens when you complete your FAFSA. And then there's also a monetary award program through the state of Illinois, or also called the MAP grant. So again, definitely some positives. There's no need to repay the grant money, and it can be used to cover any cost associated with schooling. So those educational expenses are a fairly large umbrella. However, unfortunately, not everyone qualifies for all of the grant funding. It's definitely determined more on a financial need, and also for students who are completing their first bachelor's degree. So again, unfortunately, not eligible for graduate students or students who already have their first bachelor's.
All right, so we're going to flip it back and we're going to talk a little bit more about, now we're going to talk about the student loans. So student loans, some of the major options, obviously a student loan is money you can borrow to help pay for school. Unlike grants, these must be paid back. Three common types of loans are subsidized, unsubsidized, and private loans. So subsidized loans, just going to give you some of the basics on this, again, kind of high level. Subsidized federal student loans are available to eligible associate and bachelor students. So they are not there for grad students. Eligibility is based on financial need. So here's some of the pros of the subsidized loans. So the interest rate on your loan doesn't apply until after you're no longer in school, no longer attending school. You don't have to make payments while you're enrolled in college. Payments are deferred for 6 months after you are no longer a student. Interest rates are generally lower than loans from private banks, and these loans aren't credit-based. You don't have to have a good credit score to qualify. Some of the cons. Eligibility is determined based on financial need, which means only students with the most financial need will qualify. Unlike a grant, a loan must be repaid. So even though this is, need-based, you still do have to repay this, of course. So once you're no longer a student is when you would go into that repayment period. Unsubsidized loans, the basics. So now we're going to talk about the other side, which is the unsubsidized. So federal unsubsidized student loans are available to all eligible undergraduate and graduate students. Financial need is not considered for these loans. So here's some of the pros. Again, the interest rate on your loan doesn't apply until after you're no longer attending school. You don't have to make payments while you're enrolled in college. Payments are deferred for 6 months after you're no longer a student. Interest rates are generally lower than loans from private banks. These loans aren't credit-based. You don't have to have a good credit score to qualify. Some of the cons on these unsubsidized loans as well as interest accumulates. So even while you're attending school, which means the balance will grow if you're not actively paying while you're enrolled in your program or during the deferment period. It doesn't mean you can't pay. You can pay interest if you choose to while you're in school. Unlike a grant, a loan needs to be repaid. So private loans, again, this is another form of available loans. Private loans are offered by many private banks. Private loans do not have the special terms that federal student loans have. So we do encourage students to explore all other potential financial aid sources before deciding on a private loan. This is good for students who maybe have exceeded all of their federal financial aid through the government source and are looking to continue their education. This is an additional resource that is good for students in that situation. So pros, you can apply for a private loan even if you've used, like I said, all your federal options. Graduate students can apply for this. And the cons, you might need a good credit score or a cosigner. You usually do have to start making payments immediately, even when you're enrolled in school. They generally do have higher interest rates than their federal counterparts. So Tanya is going to talk just a bit about the scholarships and VA benefits.
Absolutely. So another way that students can receive financial aid would be through scholarships and VA benefits. scholarships are actually a gift. They come from a third party on behalf of the student, and it's to help them pay for school. There are a number of different scholarships that are available, whether it's merit-based or need-based. And there are a number of sites out there, even free sites like scholarships.com or fastweb.com that you can go to search for scholarships you might be eligible for. There are military discounts that are available for veterans, reserve duty, active duty, and their families. I would definitely encourage anybody who has questions about potential military funding to either talk to their education officer or their local VA office to determine exactly what those benefits are. But Judson definitely loves our military and loves to help out our students who have served our country to be able to help them continue their education.
All right, Kim and Tanya, thanks so much for everything you've shared so far. We talked about the different types of aid, and we're going to transition next in terms of how you can know what sort of aid you qualify for. Just want to take a step back. Obviously, there's a lot of information that we've gone through so far. And one of the big things to remember, like I said at the top, is that there are people at Judson, enrollment coaches, financial aid folks, veteran-specific folks who are available to help and to go through your specific situation and help you know how to take the next steps in this process. It can seem daunting, but it doesn't have to be. You've got people who can be at your side throughout this entire process to help you each step of the way to get the answers that you need and ultimately to help get you all the funds that you may qualify for. So these are phone numbers, email addresses of folks that you can get in touch with to help with your specific questions about financial aid. So hopefully you've had time to take a screenshot or write these down or jot these down. And so again, we've talked about different types of aid that may be available. And so the next question is, well, how do I know what I qualify for? How can I take that next step? And that is the FAFSA. And so at this point, Kim, I'll throw it back to you to start walking us through the FAFSA.
Thanks. So yes, we're going to talk all about FAFSA. This is fun stuff. All right, so what is FAFSA? It's the free application for federal student aid. Is a mandatory form used to determine both your eligibility for aid and how much you can receive. Do I have to fill out the FAFSA? Yes, if you want to try and get some financial aid, you do. So you must apply for FAFSA in order to qualify for financial aid. Without FAFSA, both Judson and the government cannot determine your financial status or need, both of which are necessary to determine how much aid you'll get. Again, just want to throw it out there that the enrollment team is always happy to help students with this. We definitely spend time walking students through this over the phone or even in person at the Rockford campus. So again, that's just an added service that we provide. Who is eligible to apply for FAFSA? So all citizens, all U.S. citizens and eligible non-citizens can apply. More than 99% of Judson students qualify for financial aid, as we discussed earlier. When is the best time to apply for FAFSA? So the good news is you can apply for FAFSA year-round. Now is the best time to apply. Now that 2020 is well underway, tax information will be readily available. We can probably throw a question out there that I'll have Vinny or Jessica kind of clarify on regarding the MAP grant for our Illinois students as far as best time to apply for that. And I'll remind you guys of that maybe at the end. So how do I apply for FAFSA? Well, you visit the website, which is fafsa.ed.gov to apply. What you're going to need to have handy would be your social security number or your alien registration number. If you're 24 or younger, you'll need your parents' social security numbers too, because at that point you may be considered a dependent student. You'll need your driver's license number, tax information like your W-2, and then Judson's FAFSA code, which is listed there, 001700. How much aid will I receive? Well, the only way to determine how much you'll receive is by completing the FAFSA. How much you will receive will depend on a number of factors, including your income, the projected cost of your personal degree, whether or not you have dependents, how early you complete your FAFSA. All right, so I'm going to throw it back to Tanya. She's actually going to talk just a little bit about what it means to be a responsible borrower.
Absolutely. This is probably one of my favorite topics to talk to students about because, yes, while financial aid can cover many costs associated with college, there are some students who qualify for more than what they may necessarily need to cover all of their costs for the year. And so again, while the education expense umbrella can be fairly large, this is, some of that money that you receive does have to be paid back in the form of the loan. So borrow what you need. Make sure that you are anticipating cost for things that you might need, such as books or resources or computer, internet, I'm not telling anyone how to spend their money, but anticipate those costs. And when you're financing your education, make sure you use the free money first, or the money you don't have to pay back. So grants, scholarships, things like that. And then start looking at what other types of aid you have available to you so you can personally adjust what you need to cover your costs for tuition and including the other education expenses you have that may come up.
Yeah, so Kim and Tanya, thanks for everything that you've shared so far. Next up, we've got our Q&A section. If you joined us a little bit late, there's a Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen that you can click on and type questions out for the group. We've got a few questions already, so thanks to everybody who's shared questions so far. Just again, we've got classes coming up. Even though Judson has temporarily moved all of its on-campus classes to online, you can still expect that same level of quality and support on online education. Classes are still slated to start April 14th, and then we've got some start dates there in May. They will start all 100% online right now, and then once it's safe for campuses to reopen, your coaches will get in touch with you and make a transition plan for what works best for you. You can stay online and continue there, or you can transition to the Elgin or Rockford campuses. And so both in the future and in the present, coaches are available to help understand your options. And so again, we've got a phone number and an email address there. Write it down, grab a screenshot, and get a hold of folks. And again, we do have some time for Q&A right now. We've already got a handful of questions. So again, thanks to everybody who's done it. If you joined us late, use that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen to submit questions. And so Kim, you mentioned that that MAP grant earlier. Jessica, let's start with there. Give us a little bit more detail about the MAP grant, how folks can apply, and just anything else that's useful to know about that Illinois specific grant.
Okay, sure. So we do recommend students to complete their FAFSA applications October 1st. That's usually when it's available for students to complete for the following academic year. The sooner they complete it, the better chances they do have to receive the MAP grant. They don't usually notify us of when the deadline will be. So that's why we always tell them October 1st, complete it right away within that month, even until December, try to put it in as soon as possible. That way your chances are higher to receive the MAP grant. So yeah, October 1st.
Okay, awesome, Jessica, thank you. Tanya, you mentioned talking about responsible borrowing and anticipating costs. We do have a question about, can I use financial aid to cover rent? That's probably a question on a few people's minds right now, just kind of with what's going on in the world. Vinny, what can you tell us about using financial aid to cover rent and other possible non-school expenses?
Sure. So the question, can you? Yes, you can. It kind of comes down to the responsible borrowing. This is money that you will need to pay back. So it is important to kind of stay mindful of the money that you are taking out. It's not, it will be something that will come back, the second that you're done with school, you'll have 6 months and then you'll have to start paying back. So I always emphasize school related, just treat it as if it weren't there. Cover tuition, maybe try to figure out a way to, cover your books and maybe transportation costs, but it's definitely very important to kind of be mindful of your spending and what you're taking out.
All right, great advice, Vinny. Thank you very much. Jessica, let's kick it back to you. We've got a couple questions about when will I get my financial aid? So, okay, I filled out my FAFSA. I know what I've qualified for. When am I actually going to see those funds in my account or applied to my Judson account? How does that?
Sure. So once you submit your FAFSA, we do receive it within 3 to 5 business days. We'll go ahead and review it and make sure that there's no flags out there. Some students do get selected for verification where you need to submit additional paperwork, but we're all here to help and, try to make this as easy as possible. So once all of that is, completed and submitted and, processed, we go ahead and offer you financial aid. We send you an email once it's ready for you to accept or decline. And then once classes starts, usually within a week, that's when we do set up for disbursements. So as long as you are attending class and accepted all of your financial aid and you have to complete, your master promissory note, loan entrance counseling. Once everything's done, then that's when your funds should be able to disperse into your account. And you should be all set to go at that point.
Awesome, Jessica. You brought up some terms that are familiar to us, but may be new to people who haven't done a FAFSA or done work with financial aid before. Things like master promissory note, verification, loan entrance counseling. Could you give a little bit more detail? Maybe Vinny, you can jump into and tag team this in terms of, can you break down those terms and kind of what they mean and what folks can expect as they come across those different steps in the process?
Sure. So for loans, so since if students do get awarded like the subsidized, unsubsidized loan, then there's 2 steps that you have to complete in order for those loans to disperse into your account, which is the master promissory note and the loan entrance counseling that I mentioned. They're all online and they usually take, like 30 minutes to complete. It's not, it does not take a long time to do, and you only have to do it once from that moment, and then you're covered your whole time here at Judson. So that's what the MPN, Master Promissory Note and Loan Entrance Counseling is. And then for the verification part, that's something that the Department of Ed does. They select students randomly, and it's just to verify the information that was provided on the FAFSA, just to confirm that all the information is correct. So as long as everything on your FAFSA that you provided us with is correct, you just have to put that in paper and submit it to us. We review it, process it, and you're all set to go.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jessica. Vinny, anything else you want to add as it relates to entrance counseling, master promissory note verification, any of those steps in the process that Jessica explained so well for us?
Kind of like with, when we do send you the award letter after we do, or, via email, we will also have the links to be able to do, you can just click the link to figure out your master promissory note as well as your entrance counseling. So very user-friendly. Additionally, if you are flagged for verification, we will be sending out those particular documents. All you need to do is just fill them out. You might need to give, additional information, whether it may be tax transcripts, just so we can verify income, or, a transcript for your school, just kind of confirming that you had attended prior. But a very easy process. It takes really no time to verify as long as we have everything. And we're always working with students to make that process as easy as we can.
Awesome, Vinny. Thank you for that. It looks like we've got time for one more question, and it's about how frequently folks need to apply for financial aid. Jessica, you said some of those things, in terms of the master promissory note and loan counseling, those things can be done, once the first time you receive aid, and then it's good for your time at Judson. But how often do people actually have to complete a FAFSA or apply for financial aid? Is it every term, every year? Vinny, give us a little more insight in terms of how frequently people need to apply for financial.
Sure. Well, just like Jessica said, file early. That is kind of always our thing. If you file early, so every October, a new FAFSA, you're able to file a new FAFSA. So this coming October will be 2020, 2021, or so sorry, 2020, 2022 already. We're already there. We're always a year ahead. So file early as possible. By filing early, we're able to get everything in. We're able to make sure that if you have a verification, we can take care of it. You might be able to get the MAP grant. So it's just by filing early, we are kind of able to project your financial aid for you if you have any questions, and kind of get your whole academic plan together.
Okay. And so just to clarify, so it's an every year type of thing with the FAFSA. Just even though it's not there are some parts of it that are one and done, but there's other that actual application itself is something that happens on a recurring basis.
Correct. This is not a one and done every year, and we will send out. We're always sending out emails right around September. So just kind of getting people to know that this must be on your radar. If you're taking classes within this academic year, you have to file your FAFSA if you plan on receiving aid.
Okay. Excellent. Good stuff to know. All right. Well, that is all the questions that we have. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who attended and who submitted questions. We appreciate your interest in this topic. A big thank you to all of our panelists, Kim, Tanya, Vinny, Jessica. Thanks to everyone for your insight and your expertise in going through these topics. Before we leave, I just want to leave one more shout out to how you can experience this kind of support in a one-on-one type of conversation. You've got coaches who are at the ready via phone, via email, to help walk you through the steps to help you get the funds that you deserve to help pay for education. And again, we've got our start dates up there, starts in April 14th and then May 11th, 12th, and 26th. Just one last reminder that Judson's campuses are temporarily closed to keep the community safe. So if you start on any of those dates, you would start your education online. And then once it's safe for campuses to reopen, Judson will be in touch and help you make a transition plan that works for you in terms of either staying online or transitioning to campus learning. Between now and then, please stay safe. Please keep moving forward toward your goals in your Judson education. Thanks again for joining us. We'll be putting this recording on YouTube, so feel free to share it with a friend once we put it out there. Anybody who's be interested in getting answers to their financial aid questions. So thanks once again to all of you for attending. Thanks again to our panelists. Have a great rest of your day and weekend. Take care.